What is a working capital line? Well, a working capital line is a way for businesses to get financing quickly. My name is Jonathan Fodera. I've been in small business lending for the past 14 years, and I've helped thousands of clients get millions of dollars to help grow and expand their businesses. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is the working capital lines. We're going to go through what the qualifications are, what the process looks like, okay, how much you can get, and really what it should be used for. We're going to break down everything you need to know about working capital lines, when it's a fit and when it's not a fit. Basically, let's start off with what is a working capital line. A working capital line is based on your sales. And basically, they're going to advance you money based on the sales of your business, okay? And typically, the terms go anywhere from 6 months all the way out to, let's say, 15, 18. The longest I've seen is 24 months, but those are really rare. And it operates either on a daily payment, basically Monday through Friday, no weekends, no holidays, or a weekly payment. There's a rare one that operates basically taking a percentage of your credit card sales until the amount is repaid. All right, now, these types of advances are typically, there's a higher cost because they're quicker and easier to get, and you have to use them in the right way to grow your business. All right, so going into these working capital lines, there's a lot of times, like the best story I could tell you is one of my clients came to me when he started his business. He was only a year in business, and he was basically doing like $100,000 to $150,000 a month. And he didn't have good credit at the time. I think he had like 550 credit, and he needed money to buy trucks. So in his case, what we did was we got him $100,000. He was able to add 2 trucks. And we did it, it was I think a 10-month deal. So we got him the 100 and he was paying back, I think about 135,000, 138,000, okay? And they took daily payments Monday through Friday, so 210 payments until that was repaid, right? Because they typically average 21 payments in a month, right? Now, if they did weekly payments, we'd multiply that times 5 and that would be your weekly payment. And so what he did and what I advised him is, you're gonna buy these 2 trucks. Once these 2 trucks are on, you should be making a good amount of money. Your revenues are gonna increase. So pay this off early and get a discount, meaning instead of paying $135,000, he was able to pay it off sooner and he paid less. So he was able to save money. At the same time, I told him to get into a credit repair program to boost his credit up so he doesn't have to do a working capital line in the future. My client's name was John, and he was very happy. He said, hey, thank you. I wasn't able to get these trucks through equipment financing, and because I just started a business and I had bad credit, I needed these trucks to grow, and this was the only way I could do it. So he was happy about that. Now, let's go into the qualifications. Typically, as long as you have a 500 credit score or above and you've been in business a year, some people, and sometimes we can get people approved if they've only been in business 6 months. Those are rare cases, and those are gonna be more expensive terms. What I would tell you is, as long as your credit's over 500, you have decent cash flow, and you're doing at least $15,000 a month going into a business bank account, you should be able to get approved. Now, there are high-risk industries. Some of the high-risk industries are like adult industries, trucking, things of that nature. So the reason why people get working capital advances or working capital lines is they just don't have the credit, they don't have the time in business, maybe their cash flow is a little off, or it's a high-risk industry. Typically, that's why you would do or use a working capital line. So as long as you're doing $15,000 a month, your credit's above 500, you have decent cash flow, and all your sales and deposits are going into a business bank account, you should be able to qualify. Now, one of the benefits is that you can get the money quickly. So I'll give you an example. I had a client come in. He actually had a more qualified business, but he needed like same-day financing. He couldn't wait to get the line of credit. So he asked me to rush a working capital line for him. The reason is one of his competitors was going out of business. He had the opportunity to buy a bunch of equipment at a discount, but he couldn't wait for equipment financing. We weren't sure if he was going to get approved for a line of credit, and he didn't want to wait the time. Typically, lines of credit are really quick too, but with a working capital line, they're a little bit quicker, right? Because they're higher risk. So he came in, I think he borrowed $50,000 to buy a bunch of equipment that normally would have cost him $150,000, and it really helped his business grow. Now that $50,000 I think cost him like $68,000 overall, but it was worth it because he bought that equipment at a discount, and that equipment allowed him to make an extra $20,000 a month, right? And he was able to get the money the same exact day he applied, right? So he came in 9 a.m., we had everything, got it approved, went through the whole process, which was pretty easy, and got funded, right? So in situations like that, either you really need the money quick, or you wouldn't qualify for a line of credit or equipment financing, or you don't have the time to wait for like equipment financing. That scenario makes a lot of sense. So moving on, let's talk about the right way to use a working capital line. The right way to use a working capital line is to use it for growth, and it has to be like explosive growth, something that's really going to help your business thrive. I never suggest using them to stay in business. I also don't suggest taking out more than 2 at a time because they'll hurt your cash flow. So there are better programs if you have the time or you're qualified. Now, when you're doing a working capital line, you can get approved in a couple hours and the money in your account not too long after that. All you need to apply is a one-page application, 6 months of business bank statements. If you accept credit cards, they're going to want to see those. So the last 3 or 4 months of your merchant processing statements. A tax return. If you don't have a tax return, you just need to be able to show that you own the business. So articles of incorporation. You're going to need a driver's license and a voided check. That is 99% of what you're going to need to get funded. You know, they may do a couple references. They're going to ask you where the money's going. And when I say that, that's also my underwriter or a underwriter is going to ask those questions to you. But that's all you need to apply. And when I say, and I want to go over, and I know I'm combining what's needed to apply and how to use them, but it is important. You use them if it's really a last resort option or you need to do something quick, and it should be for growth. The reason it should be for growth is if you can make more money than you're paying back on the advance, that makes sense. If you can bring in more revenue than the payment is going to cost you, whether it's daily, weekly, or out of the credit cards, that makes sense. You want to see an increase in sales, an increase in revenue, and ultimately that money should pay for itself. All right, so if you have an opportunity to get inventory quick and you can flip it multiple times over the course of that advance, that makes sense. If you have the ability to put that money into a marketing campaign, you know, increase your revenue, increase your sales, that makes sense. If you can buy a piece of equipment after you got turned down for equipment financing, or you have a great deal because someone's going out of business, or it's at an auction and you just need the cash in the bank, that makes sense. When you shouldn't use it is, you know, you're trying to keep the business afloat. I don't want to see someone throw good money after bad. Another reason or way you shouldn't do it is you want to see if you can get approved for a line of credit first. If you can get approved for a line of credit, you should be taking that line of credit. If you can get approved for a term loan, you should be taking the term loan. Right? There are better programs than working capital lines. Now, if a working capital line is all you can get, what are some great tips that you should use to make sure you're getting a great deal? Well, one, you always want to make sure there's prepayment incentives. All that means is if you pay early, you're going to save money. Two, there shouldn't be erroneous fees. So if you go to a broker's going to charge you fees. They might charge, and they'll call it a personal service fee. They might charge anywhere from 2, the most I've ever seen is 10%. You should not be paying that fee. The underwriter will have an origination fee. That's normal. It's typically about 2.5%. Sometimes it gets a little higher than that, but there should not be another fee in there from the broker. So those are 2 things to watch out for to make sure you're getting a good deal. Now, my thoughts and opinions, just to, kind of give you an idea on working capital lines, I think they are a great resource. I think they can be used to help your business. I also think that a lot of people that sell them are misguided in how to use them. If it's used for the right reasons, then yes, it can absolutely help your business grow. In my 14 years, I've helped thousands of business owners grow their business with these. But every time I've done that, we've also worked with that business owner to get them into a better program by increasing their credit, by increasing their revenue, by fixing what was wrong and the reason why they couldn't get, approved for a line of credit or an SBA loan. So working capital lines do have a place in growing your business. You just have to use them responsibly. You use them for growth and you don't abuse them by putting 2, 3, 4, 5 working capital lines together. And I don't think you should use it to keep your business afloat unless you have another solution besides borrowing money. What I mean by that is if your business is losing money, but it's a one-time thing, like your AC unit went out, you have bad credit, you can't fix it, but you need the AC unit to run the business, then sure, use that working capital line because the problem's fixed and then the business is going to be running and operational and it's not consistently losing money. If your business is consistently losing money and you don't have a solution to fix it with the financing, then you shouldn't be taking the working capital line, because at the end of the day, that working capital line is going to hurt you if you're not using it for growth or to fix a one-time emergency, right? So let's just recap everything. We went over what a working capital line is, what are some of the terms. We went over what you need to apply. We went over how you should use a working capital line. And we went over my thoughts, like where it sits in the ecosystem and what you should be looking out for. So I'll tell you this, if you have a use for the money and you know it will help your business grow, what I'd want you to do is check your credit, download your bank statements, review your bank statements. You can do all this today. Okay, check your credit by going on Credit Karma, look at the bank statements, see how your cash flow is, look at your payment processing statements, put all that together, and then find a plan for the funds before you apply. All right, and I'll be happy to help guide you. I'll tell you what I think you'll be able to get. Can you get a line of credit? Can you get a term loan? Or is it going to be working capital? And then we'll analyze it together. Is it worth moving forward and getting that working capital line to grow your business? And if you have questions, please reach out to me. You can reach me on Facebook, on Instagram, or go to www.integratedbusinessfinancing.com, and we'll be happy to help you integrate your business and level up.